Hello and welcome back to the Mystic in Training podcast with me, your host, Melissa Amos. I have been having tons of conversations over the last couple of weeks, especially after returning from the Business Ascension Awards. And I have to say, being booked for numerous speaking gigs off the back of it with business owners up and down the country in lots of different fields. And some of the conversations have actually concerned me a little bit. But as always, with everything, it has given me some great food for thought. But I've started to notice a pattern that there's a lot of people out there who have big hearts and who have great skill sets, who have a belief, a vision, a mission that they want to create big impact in the world. And this is wonderful. But it's almost as if the ones with the biggest mission and the biggest impact and the biggest correlation between what they love and what they stand for and what they seem to be born to do and where it is that they want to be, the bigger that gap is. And it's got me asking why. Now, during these conversations, I've been asking one quite simple question. What spiritual support are you getting in this? Because so many of these business owners are having strategy support, even some identity work. They are learning what to do, sales, marketing, offer structure, all of the things, and also having some form of identity structure. And I think that's important. I'm seeing that more and more. And these realizations about what is holding them back. But what I'm noticing is it's the ones that are actually having spiritual support. So not just mindset, not just strategy, not even just emotional therapy, but spiritual support are the ones that seem to be creating the most impact and having the most momentum and also reporting the most fulfillment. But somehow the thought of spiritual support can seem like a nice to have rather than a need to have. Now, for me, it's interesting because I kind of started the journey with all the spiritual support. And I do see it because as a spiritual teacher myself, there's this temptation of thinking, well, I've got it all worked out. I know the skills, I've got the healing hands, I know how to do the tapping, I've got all the things, what do I need? I've read the books, I've got the questions that I can even ask myself. Yet I have invested multiple thousands of pounds over the years, specifically in spiritual support, uniquely because there's not many people that offer this business spiritual support. And I honestly feel that it's that that's allowed me to get to where I need, because what I'm looking at with spiritual support is not how to hold a healing modality necessarily, but it's more how are we guiding ourselves and our progression and our decisions and the person that we're becoming through this higher lens, not just of intuition, because I think intuition is a skill, if you like, spiritual skill, depending how you look at it. But it's this intelligence that makes the world go round, right? It's this intelligence that turns the acorn into the oak tree, that get the seasons turning, that tells the sunflower to move its head towards the sun in order for it to grow. It's this divine intelligence, what I call spiritual intelligence, that really makes the difference, like who we are in this universal field, how this divine order actually lives up to us, or lives through us, I should say. It seems to me that we've managed to create, like, ironically, even in the spiritual profession, this separation between what I'm doing for my business and how I make the most impact, the most money, get the most visible, with actually leaning into spiritual intelligence. And that doesn't feel right to me. That feels like herein lies the problem, because we're creating this massive gap. Now, in my talk, I was speaking about a time when I was in my Akashic records. I had been going through one of the hardest times that I'd personally been through in business after releasing an offer that some people didn't like. It was for £22,000 and it caused a bit of a ripple. It sent me through this spiral of judgment and increased my visibility. And I was noticing what was happening with me around how hard it was, how my brain was spiraling, how my nervous system was activated, how I wanted to just run away and hide. When I went into my Akashic records and asked them about this, because I will admit, before that point, I was of the mindset that if it's meant to be, it will flow. I realize now what a trap it was. And so there I was in my Akashic records asking this question, but why is this so hard? Why am I finding this so difficult? And the answer that came back to me was this: Melissa, your business is not meant to keep you safe. Melissa, your business is not meant to keep you safe. Your business is here to help you evolve. Ooh. And in that moment, I realized actually what a gift this was. Didn't make it easier, but it was a gift. And it gave me this new lens in which I'm leading myself. It started to help me understand that even this, which seemed to be the hardest thing that I had to go through, that made me want to run for the hills and and give it all up just for a day, was actually one of my biggest learning curves, which meant that I could approach it differently. It meant that I could approach it with a different perspective. I could approach myself with more compassion, and I could start to track what was happening in my mind and in my nervous system, in my psyche, in my decisions, and what followed from that through a bigger understanding that actually, as a business owner, we're on the fast track. We're like, we have decided to go down the fast evolution track. And you've probably heard me say this before, that evolution is our sole purpose. That's why we are here, to evolve and to grow. And if we have this business that is part of who we are, that's our vocation, that is our interest and our way of seeing the world and our mission and our passion and all of the things that comes up when we are living consciously and we're wanting to get our gifts out into the world, this is tenfold. And so, of course, what needs to underpin that is not just strategy. And I love strategy. It fascinates me. But in the world that we are moving into, and the amount of information that's coming through, and the amount of people that are doing work, the only thing really that differentiates you from anybody else is your unique perspective, who you are, and the capacity in which you are able to hold it all. And that doesn't come through separating everything out. That comes through bringing everything together. That comes through the true definition of power, which is coherence. And not just coherence, as I said a while ago, in how our soul and our mind and our body and our expression and our actions all come into life, because they need to come into line in order for us to be fueled by this greater purpose, this greater energy. So we're not burning out, we're not giving from an empty well, we're not coming just from our triggers, we're coming from source, we're coming from power, we're coming from mission. Also, coherence between who we are, our life, the way that we see the world, the way that we move through our integrity and our values and our beliefs and our lifestyle and our desires and all of these things, our spirituality, the way we hold ourselves, the way we show up when nobody's watching, how that all aligns with our business. Because if we don't, then we're coming back into this rocky foundation. We're fragmented. And when we're in fragment, we are not drawing from the infinite well, so to speak. We then go into drawing either from our brain, which is great sometimes, or from outsourcing. Well, what do you think I should do? What's going to be? And we're not meant to be doing this alone. We're not meant to be just like so independent that we don't need anything. We need help and we need support. But where are we outsourcing all of that? And where are we working with people who can literally lift us into our full potential so that our whole lifestyle, our whole mission, our bigger picture, and our challenges and our restrictions and our hidden agreements and our overlays and our implicit beliefs and all of the things that have been stopping us, because if our business is here to evolve us, then guess what? All of that is going to come up for review. You can have the best strategy in the world that's going to get you on the biggest stage, but if you do not hold the hidden agreement that's going to allow you to stand on that stage and absolutely rock it, you're probably not going to get there. If you don't hold the capacity to be able to have the conversations, to let people say no to you, to put yourself out there, to stand in your belief, then it doesn't matter how great your PR pitch is. There's going to be a point where you sabotage yourself. And it won't look like sabotage. It will look like bad luck, or it will look like circumstance, or it will look like procrastination, or it will look like I was busy with something else. But if we're really truthful with ourselves, there's something else going on. And if our business is here to evolve us, which the more I sit with this idea, the more I see it in action, then all of those things are part of the path. That actually the bits that we find the hardest are the things that we're meant to be working and turning towards rather than moving against. And you can't do that just with one fragment of the picture. When we begin to bring it all together, when we see the higher purpose, when we fuel by the higher wisdom that's available to us at all times, and then we seek to line up all of the parts that sit in between it, then real magic happens. Then we find ourselves on the stage. Then we find ourselves being asked to come back. Then we find people coming up to us and going, oh my God, I can't get enough. Tell me more about how I work with you. Because they feel it and they feel the truth. Because this thing that has been activated and is so within you has activated them, and they might not be able to understand it, but there's a pull and there's a draw. And you know what? That pull and draw will probably bring up their limiting beliefs and their hidden agreements. And so once again, it's about how you hold that so that you can meet them in their wholeness, in their potential, in their highest self, rather than be like, oh, well, they said no, and that must mean that I'm rubbish. In fact, this was one of the discussions we were having in my Soul School Mastery group with my Akashic Reiki future teachers about how we hold people and the benefit of being able to see them truly in their wholeness. And that starts with us working towards doing that for ourselves. Because I've been at this game for a long time, and I tell you, it's not easy. I tell you, there's days and minutes and moments that the doubt still comes in, the overlay still awakens up, that still goes, no, we're not good enough, that the hidden agreements then go, hey, but what about this? But having the spiritual support that I do and the inner workings that I've been working on through so long, and everything that I've discovered with Akashic Reiki and how all of that developed, walking this Akashic path, I've realized that I relate to it differently. So whilst before it may have stopped me and sabotaged me, now when I choose to, it becomes a learning curve and it becomes my next level up. I start to notice actually what frustration is really telling me rather than a no. I allow myself to be open to more and more conversations that beforehand, if I'm honest, I thought I wanted, but I would have avoided. You can imagine getting yourself into like some incredible room with some of your most respected mentors or authors or teachers or stars, and then going in there and being like, I got in the room, but I don't belong here. How you would show up differently to, "Oh, I got in the room and this is the conversation that's meant to be happening, not just for me, but for us, and not just for us, but for all." Imagine how differently you would show up. Imagine how differently you would speak, what you'd say, what you'd ask, what you would contribute. Knowing that everything is here to grow you, knowing that you are here to help grow other people, and it takes you in coherence and you showing up and you knowing that you are part of this divine intelligence and that it is constantly guiding you and it's constantly moving you forward. It makes all the difference. And so if you're in business or you want to be in business, don't just look at the surface. And don't just look at the mindset, because I've seen people find their implicit beliefs and then go, oh, look, that's what I don't do. And then they still carry on doing it again and again. And it's because we're missing this really essential piece. Spiritual support is not a nice to have. Spiritual support is the underpinning for everything. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with my clients, and I've seen it these last 2 weeks with the other business owners that I've been speaking with. That correlation. Those that have the spiritual support, the higher wisdom, the access to this bigger knowing, they are differentiated. And it's available to all of us. This is what I'm so passionate about right now. These are the conversations we're having in Soul Space, my membership, and the conversations that I'm having on the wider stages in the wider world right now. I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know, when you have had spiritual support, how it has helped your life, your business, your relationships, just the way that you are, your body. Let's open this conversation. It's an important one. And I will see you next time.